Hello, I'm Regis Tremblay. Sometime in 2018, Russell and I were guests on a podcast hosted by David Stickney. As a result of that show, Russell sent me a copy of his new book, The Donbas Cowboy. His personal account of the war defending the Donetsk Republic was so riveting that I read it in one sitting. I contacted Russell and immediately told him I wanted to make a movie about his life based on the book. He agreed, and in August and October of 2019, we traveled to Donetsk when we began filming. Born on June 20th, 1960, to a wealthy family in Austin, Texas, he went missing on April 8th, 2024, and the Vostok Battalion confirmed his death April 19th, 2024, at the age of 64 in the Donetsk People's Republic of the Russian Federation. This is my tribute to the man they called the Donbas Cowboy. Here is his story in his own words.
Probably when I was about 12 years old, 7th grade, junior high school, Houston, Texas. A friend of mine had an older brother who was kind of a, hippie, communist rebel, and he gave me the book Guerrilla Warfare by Che Guevara. And I thought that was really interesting, a really cool book, People's Militia, Revolutionary Army. And I read that, and then I wanted to read some other books by Che, and so I went to the local library and found some stuff there, and in the same section found books by Ho Chi Minh and like Marx and Lenin, which was a little over my head at that time, but I was kind of interested and always interested in the Russian history and Russian culture, and just took it from there. Didn't become like a real hardcore communist, but understood that what we were being told about communism and Russia wasn't really the whole story by a long shot. Well, basically from there, I was just kind of a hippie growing up. Got my GED and joined the Army when I was 20. And interestingly enough, I was stationed in Germany. My parents were living in London, and I would go to visit them when I had days off from the Army. And I was riding back from Edinburgh, Scotland one time on the overnight train, the Flying Scotsman. And I was reading a book about the SAS. And there was this beautiful red-haired actress sitting across from me on the train. And she's looking at me and she's like, "Oh, so you like the SAS, do you?" And I'm like, "Well, they kill terrorists, don't they?" And she said, "Well, did you ever think maybe they were the terrorists?" I closed the book and I said, "No, tell me more." And even though she was Scottish, she was a supporter of the Irish struggle. And, we talked almost all the way to London, and that really opened my mind more. And so I started studying about that and, anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism. It's a sign of intelligence to have an open mind and to be able to change your mind, or conversely, you could say it's the sign of the most abject and complete stupidity to think that you know it all and refuse to consider other possibilities or other ways of looking at things. And so, I started looking at things from different perspectives, and it resonated with my spirit. It made sense to me. Before I joined the Army, my family, we lived in Brownsville, Texas, right on the Mexican border. And my dad had a maquiladora, which is a business setup where, offices and accounting are in the United States and Texas, and the factory that builds whatever you're selling is right across the river in Mexico. And it's really, real capitalist exploitation, a great way to make a lot of money because you're able to pay your workers literally 1/10 what it would cost you to pay them in the United States. My dad had a factory over there, about 500 employees, and he made a lot of money. That was my first job. I was actually a illegal immigrant worker from the United States into Mexico. And I made $98 a week, and I was a welder, heavy steel construction factory. And that's where I understood that, about real capitalist exploitation, I mean, the guys that I was working with, they were not only, absolute masters of their craft, I mean, talking like, overhead welding and stuff like that. It's really, takes years and, real skill and artistic talent to do right. But they were also really good guys, and I mean, they're living, in these, really, dirt road Mexican slums. The place right next to the factory where we worked was a Union Carbide insecticide plant, just the same kind that that killed all those people in Bhopal, India. And that was at the time when that happened, and there's guys, my friends that lived in that neighborhood that are like, they read about Bhopal and then they're like, man, this, it's the same factory here, we could be killed by insecticide. Our whole families, our whole neighborhoods could be killed. And so that really opened my eyes about, capitalist exploitation and, the people that, really the parasite class that takes away what other people earn, And so it was just kind of reinforcing what I had read when I was younger. And then when I got out of the Army, and incidentally, my dad, who was very rich, and he bribed me into joining the Army. He told me he would pay for my college and then give me a job. And while I was in Germany, the second year, I signed up for 3 years. And the second year, the Mexican peso devaluated, and all my dad's money, one morning he woke up and it was worth half of what it was the day before. He ended up, the banks called in his loans. He ended up losing his company, going broke, and he really hit the skids. When I got out of the Army, he told me and my younger brother, he said, hey, look, we're down to our last 100 grand. Your mom and I are going to open a restaurant on South Padre Island. If the restaurant works, we'll be okay. If it doesn't, we're going to be out in the streets too, and we need y'all's help. So me and my brother came. We opened this restaurant, and it became one of the best restaurants in Texas. It was called The Pantry and the Grill Room, and we served steaks and seafood. Very high dollar, very fancy restaurant, excellent wine list. And then again, I was the waiter there. And I used to make good money. We could sometimes, between 6 p.m. and midnight, make $300 in tips. Well, eventually I left South Padre Island and moved to Minnesota. I became involved in the marijuana legalization movement, and I was a very serious activist. I was on the national level. At this time in like the early 1990s, we had a political party in Minnesota that was basically our single issue was legalizing weed, not just to smoke, but also for all the ecological and economic industrial uses, like making paper and cloth and oil for food and for fuel and stuff like that. And I got pretty deeply involved in that. In fact, I started smuggling weed up from Mexico to Minnesota and did that for about 6 years before I finally got snitched out and arrested. And then I got sentenced to 5 years in prison. And most of that sentence was because I was the only one on the case that didn't agree to squeal and cooperate with the cops. Everybody else, including the kingpin, my boss, got less time than I did. In fact, the Kingpin got 3 years. I got 5 years and 3 months. All the other guys that were on my level that agreed to be debriefed, as they say, they all got like 18 months or a year and a day. I was sentenced in June 1996 and went to a minimum security federal, club federal prison camp because it was my first offense. There was no violence involved in any of my crimes, and in the federal prison system, 5 years is considered to be a short sentence, although it's not. I was married at that time. My wife came to visit, and I told her that a minimum security prison I can get out of, so I told her I was going to escape. She said, no, no, no. If you go on the run, we'll never be able to be together. And so I said, okay, I'll do my bit for you. And she's like, yes, yes, I'll wait for you. And she did wait for me for 3 years. And, most guys that, catch a federal case, their wives divorce them immediately. The good ones last about 18 months on average, and mine lasted about 3 years. But eventually she too got tired because being married to someone in prison is a lot like being in prison yourself. I did escape. I went on the run for almost 8 years, 2,848 days. And that was a great time. I went out to Northwest Washington. I had a driver's license in a dead guy's name. I worked as a lumberjack, got paid cash off the books, and had a lot of great adventures out there. I really, really love Northwest Washington, the great Northwest. Eventually, I got snitched out, went back. The U.S. Marshals that arrested me screwed up, and they took me to a maximum security federal prison directly and put me in there. But because they put me in a maximum security, and that was the punishment, and you can't be punished twice for the same crime, they couldn't give me any more time. It was another case of, extremely, incredibly lucky. And so all I had to do was finish the rest of my bit, which was about a year. And then I got out in 2009. So I got out of prison. My sister offered me a place to stay at her house down in Austin. I went down there. I became a certified arborist because of my experience as a tree climber, tree trimmer, lumberjack. And I became like a tree doctor and a salesman for several tree companies, tree services in the Austin area. And it was a pretty good life. I made good money. I was a good salesman. When Libya happened, it really, really made me mad because not many Americans knew, but I did, that Muammar Gaddafi was really a great leader and a great. He really took care of the Libyan people. It was the highest quality of living in Africa. They had free medical care. Gasoline was 14 cents a gallon. Electricity was free for residential. The Libyan government paid 50% of the price of a new car. When newlyweds got married, the Libyan government gave them $50,000. And everybody, in America they say, oh, the crazy dictator Muammar Gaddafi. When Gaddafi was murdered, I knew it was completely fake. That the stories against him about murdering civilians and giving Viagra to his soldiers to rape women and stuff, that just complete, absolute lies. Just like the, what was it, the weapons of mass destruction with Saddam Hussein. And then when they murdered him, man, it was just like I was ashamed to be an American after that, And there was a sign on Lamar Boulevard in Austin, Texas, a major thoroughfare in that city. There was a big billboard with USMC advertisement, and it was like, it showed a bunch of Marines in dress blue uniforms. It said, "For honor, for country." And I took my tree climbing gear, And I climbed up on that billboard one day right before dawn, and like 6-foot letters wrote NATO, you know, on that Marine Corps billboard. And you know what? It was up there for more than a week before they finally took it down. You know, and I'm talking, you know, 50,000 cars a day at least drove by and saw that, you know, and that was, you know, and that made me feel good, you know. That was, at least I'm, you know, expressing myself, doing something against, you know, this hideous crime that they did to Libya. But it wasn't enough, you know, and then the Maidan starts, you know, and then I'm like seeing, again, you know, it's the color revolution, you know, Newland with the cookies, John McCain is there, you know, it's the same, you know, it's the same playing out again. And then Odessa massacre, and then that was May 2nd, 2014, you know, they burned all those people to death, and they burned and beat all those people to death. And then exactly 1 month later, on June 2nd in Lugansk, there was a Ukrainian Air Force airstrike against the city administration. And there was no soldiers around. There was a bunch of civilians standing out in front. The Ukrop jet came in, shoot rockets. A bunch of people got killed. There was a woman named Ina Kukuruza, and she was hit. I mean, her legs were both blown off. And there's a short video of her, like in the last minute of her life, like sitting on the ground, on the sidewalk, next to her legs. The woman that she had just been talking to is laying beside her dead. And she's sitting there covered in blood, and she's looking up at this guy that's like coming by with his phone, like making a video. And she's looking at this guy, knowing that she's gonna die, of course. And I saw that video, and it was like she was looking straight at me, you know, looking into my heart, into my soul, and saying, what are you gonna do about this? Are you gonna let them do this to me and just sit there and, you know, change the channel or go back to Facebook or whatever? And that was, I mean, I'd been thinking about coming here before that, but that was the moment that I knew that nothing was gonna stop me from coming here. And my dad gave me a ride from Dallas down to Houston to get on the plane, to fly to Moscow and then on to Rostov. Came across the border into the DPR. I arrived on the 7th of December, 2014. I met a guy at a friend that I had been corresponding with, who was a writer and correspondent for RT, and he helped me out. He hooked me up with the Vostok Battalion, and a week later I was in the Novorussian Armed Forces. I joined Vostok Battalion on the 14th, went to Iznovata, to the training base there. It was 2 weeks of training. The first week was like training. The second week we were manning block posts. The training wasn't really anything difficult. What was difficult was the conditions. There was about 200 of us at this base. The Ukrops had bombed the water system of Iznovata. There was no running water. It was tough, man. It was cold. The food was horrible. It was basically kasha with just, you know, basically some grease on it. And it was the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. There was tea, good hot tea with very sweet, always served sweet. And that was, you know, and sala too, you know, the bacon fat, you know. So it was carbohydrates, fat, sugar, and that's what we survived on. After 2 weeks of training, on the day before New Year's Eve, I was told, all right, tomorrow I'll be going to the airport. At about 4 o'clock in the morning on the beginning of New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2014, I loaded up all my gear and went to the airport, to the monastery, my first position. When I got there, it was just at dawn. It was dark still. It was very, very cold. Those days it was like 25 below. And as soon as I got out of the van, the first thing I saw is a blown up church, the Aversky Monastery. And that was like, really I understood that was the symbol of this war, between good and evil. And I also realized that the position that I was going to be manning was basically right in the middle of a giant cemetery. So it was also the struggle between life and death. It was a very hot, very hard position. Conditions were very, very tough. And I was lucky to survive it. This is the spot right here where I got out of the van on the morning of December 31st, 2014. It was at dawn, it was dark, very cold, and the first thing that I saw when I got out was this church. And it was in tough shape. We unloaded ammo, food, water. Some guys came from the monastery. The first thing they told me, they pointed to the airport, they said snipers. They pointed to the control tower, they said snipers. And I understood that word in Russian. And so we had to run from here to the monastery to get the gear in. And then New Year's Eve, of course, was kind of quiet, but New Year's Day, that was, we started working then. And here the battles were every day, thousands of bullets shot by each side every day. The first position, the monastery, when I first got there, there was, the only heat was from stoves, wood-burning stoves. The only light was from candles or flashlights. And it was, all the windows were filled up with sandbags, so there was no light even during the day. You had to use a flashlight even during the day. The stoves all faced to the east, and because on the west side was the new terminal, and so to be on the west side of the building was dangerous because there was often heavy-duty artillery and stuff incoming on that side. And the wind was coming from the east. And so you had the choice between either not building a fire in the stove, and then it would be literally 25 below zero, or you could build a fire in the stove, but then the smoke would come in. The wind would blow the smoke right back down the chimney into the rooms. And it was, literally 5 years later, my lungs have not and probably never will completely heal from that experience. I had already a very bad lung infection that I had picked up in Isnavata. The smoke did not help at all. I was there for 2 weeks. There was gun battles every day and every night. And as with most of the positions that I served at, we were on the east facing to the west. So the Ukrops, the Ukrainians, would, as the sun was setting behind them, which blocked our vision and made them be able to see us better, that's when they would come and attack as the sun was setting, and then the attacks would continue into the night, sometimes all night long. And I'm talking like thousands and multi-thousand round gunfights every day and every night. And it was pretty heavy. Then on the 16th, the doctor came, and basically I was ordered to go back to the infirmary because of my cough, which was very lucky for me because the next day there was a major attack by the Ukrainian army and Pravi sector Nazis against the monastery. There was 12 of our guys, 12 friends of mine that held that position against 200 Ukrops and Nazis. They were attacked with BMPs, tanks, and 200 Ukrainian infantry, and they held the position. 3 of our guys got killed in that battle, but more than 100 Ukrainians also died in that same battle. I was back in Donetsk. One of the guys from my unit called me the next day and told me what happened, and I said, "All right, I'll be back on base in an hour." And I went straight back and said, "All right, I'm fine, I'm cured. Let's go back to the airport," and I did. Then we went to Old Milnica, which was another position. I was there a week or so, and then it got a direct hit from a 120 millimeter mortar. Again, I was incredibly, I mean, you know, the numbers of times that, you know, bullets have, you know, come within a foot of my head, you know, or artillery has come so close. But this is the hole that was made by the artillery. Probably a 120 millimeter. And it was about noon. I'd been on guard duty all night. I was sleeping right here. We had like 6 or 8 beds all pushed together, just kind of like a big old dog pile to sleep on. And I was laying right there in the corner. I heard some artillery hitting close. And I thought, well, should I get up or, you know, get ready or something? Then I thought, well, if they want me to get up, they'll tell me. And if they don't tell me, I'm just going to sleep some more. And as soon as I rolled over, that's when this bomb hit right here. If I had gotten up, right here was the table where we made like the tea and coffee and stuff. And if I had gotten up, I'd have been standing right in front of this thing when it hit. So it was, you know, just a matter of seconds and a matter of inches can mean the difference between, you know, death or not a scratch. And then in June 2015, the unit that I was in, Südvremeny, was transferred from Vostok to Spetsnaz Battalion, Han Battalion Spetsnaz. And so we went from being on the front line all the time to a like official Army Spetsnaz base. It was, you know, it was no more like a militia or, you know, Opolchenets. It was real, you know, Army discipline, Army barracks. You know, and by this time I was 55 years old, and I started thinking that maybe I'm not quite cut out for, you know, Spetsnaz, acrobat, ninja, you know, James Bond type stuff, you know. And it wasn't that I was scared, or even that I was not physically able to do it, but I wasn't physically able to do it as well as guys in their early or mid 20s, you know, who were, you know, well trained, you know, real athletes. And just, you know, I just thought, you know, if I try and do it with these guys now, you know, if I go to the front or behind the lines, I'll end up slowing them up, you know, and that's not what I wanted to do. By this time I'd been interviewed a few times. Vice News had interviewed me. Episode got like 500,000 views, and, you know, most of the comments were, you know, in support of me. And so, you know, the commanders and the people who make those decisions saw that I had some skill as far as being a correspondent or a information warrior. I made another video about Anna Tuv, a woman in Gorlovka whose house got bombed by 152 artillery. Her husband was killed, her 11-year-old daughter was killed, her house was completely destroyed. She lost her left arm above the elbow in the attack. She had a 3-year-old son at that time and a 2-week-old little baby, and she was able to save them, dig them out, and save herself. She had to wait about 2 hours for the ambulance to come, had to make a tourniquet herself because the shelling was continuous for 2 hours and the ambulance couldn't get in under the shelling. I met her, made a video of her at the hospital, made a video of her house, and both of those had a real big impact as well. So, you know, the commander said, okay, you can be a, you know, counter-propagandist, an information warrior. And so that's what I started doing. We raised $10,000 for Anna Tuv to get her new prosthetic arm. So they also saw that I was good as a fundraiser too. So that's what I started doing, and basically those two things is what I've been doing ever since. In the summer of 2017, Südvremeny came out of Han Battalion and became its own independent battalion with the MVD, which is like internal troops, kind of military police. And they asked me if I could come in and help while they were building up the battalion, and I did. So I spent like 4 months at the Avdiivka front in the summer of 2017. That was also a tough position. By this time, it was the policy of the commanders was that if the UCROP shot at us, we couldn't shoot back unless they were making a direct assault on the position. I did it for 4 months, and then went back home and started doing again, concentrating on the humanitarian aid and information warfare.
Там танец будет показывать.
Ну музыкальный. Я снимаю пока.
Не туда,
Нет,
не надо. Мы
Гена,
так
не спеши.
в камеру.
Я снимаю.
А это мы пойдем.
Подождите. Сейчас все я раздам, все раздам. Пусть бумажечка будет. Берите, на.
Сидите, вам подойдут.
За все, я благ.
Спасибо, говорим. Надо помыть. Ты кушаешь, надо помыть.
Donetsk has a baseball league for boys and girls. Today we're with Lisa and Natasha. They're in the Pony League, the late teens, early 20s. They're here today having a little practice with the Little League kids, the younger guys, helping them out. Lisa has been playing baseball for 9 years. Natasha for 4 years. So you can see the kind of gear these kids are left with today. I mean, there's hardly any of these baseballs that ain't just, yeah. Stay hot in Donbass with Donbass Humanitarian Aid. Today, we're taking school supplies, cleaning supplies, and of course little candy to 3 big families, Makievka, Hanzhonkovo, and Shakhtorsk. We got a family with 5 kids, a family with 8 kids, and a family with 4 kids. So we're taking 17 kids, school supplies, the moms get some laundry soap, some sponges and stuff like that to clean up, and of course when you go to visit kids, you always got to take them a little candy. Alright, so this is the family with 8 kids. We've been here many times before. One of the oldest daughters got married recently, but there's these 4 kids, plus there's 3 more kids living here that are elsewhere right now. But we're dropping off the goodies for all of them, school supplies, candy, notebooks, whatnot. And this is all from the people that support Donbass Humanitarian Aid. editor, my cameraman, my best friend, and my true brother. We've known each other since when I first got here from 5 years ago. His code name is Altai. He's a expert cameraman and film editor. He's also still in the DPR Army, and he's originally from Kiev, and he now defends the DPR. Thanks for being on the interview, brother. It's
Thank you that invite me.
It's fun to finally let you find out how fun it is to wear the microphone yourself.
Yeah, first time I on another side of camera.
That's true. So tell us about how you came here from Kiev and why you came here and when you came here.
No, I'm born in Kiev and live all my life in Kiev. And when Maidan begins, I understand what happening exactly in my town, in my city, and I take part in this little war in my city on side of Berkut. Berkut, you know, it's the police spetsnaz
that was defending the legitimate government.
They trying to defend legitimate government, but government didn't want to fight. And when Maidan is win, when this legitimate government escape in Russia, Yanukovych, I understand that I need to go into Donbass and save my city from Donbass.
So the purpose of coming to Donbass was to join other people in order to return and liberate Kiev.
Yeah, I first of all I understanding that the power what win in Maidan, this is fascist.
Real Nazis.
Yeah, real Nazis, and because I'm anti-fascist, I'm communist. Yeah, I understanding that I should fight against this evil power.
We visited the People's Republic of Donetsk for the second time in October this year. On this visit, we were taken to the Petrovsky district, an old civilian section of the city of Donetsk, where minors, the elderly, and children live. It has been repeatedly targeted by elements of the Ukrainian Army and National Guard, indiscriminately destroying homes, schools, and stores for the past 5 years. It was bombed again on October 24th, setting fire to several homes. As we entered the district, we came upon an old babushka in the middle of the street. She was asking for food.
Вы мне хлебушка купили.
Хлебушка, хорошо.
А?
Хорошо, хлебушка купим.
А что еще
Я на
купить?
камушке буду сидеть.
Хлеб будет купить и вернусь. Вы купить хлеб и вернусь сюда на дом. We came here, it was 2016, and Sud Bremeny Info Center came. This is Ludmila's brother's neighborhood. There was a heavy artillery attack. One of the bombs hit right inside the fence here. That's what blew down all this, blew that wall out there. And you know, these people ain't got a lot of money, so they're still fixing it up as they can. It's you know, it's a working class area. A lot of people don't have jobs here. They have pensions if they're lucky.
Да, видите, все в осколках, все это вон это ковром вот это позавесили, все валится, сыпется, он дом весь полностью. Все в трещинах, крышу подняло, своими силами делали, пытались. Окна были вылетены, сами ставили-то. Ну, я же говорю, вообще. И тем более у меня муж такой, что больной человек. Ни помощи, ничего. Вот это сами что-то гребемся, что-то делаем. Он везде все эти осколки, все это. Я же говорю, до сих пор гребем.
One of the first videos that we made out here was 120 millimeter artillery or mortar hit right here. You can see the holes in the garage door. All the windows got blown out. You can see even the power, like on this building here, you know, it's just like almost blew it down. So the front line runs from north to south this way. So there's U-crops there, there's U-crops there, there's U-crops there. And with these long range cannons, they can shoot, you know, from any degree. So, you know, you can get it coming from any side. You know, right on the other side of these houses, windows were hit from the AGS. We fixed a friend of ours' kitchen got blown up. He'd been in it just seconds before. And it's just random shelling. There's no troops anywhere around here. It's a civilian area, and it's shelled just randomly. They, you know, they don't even really care where it lands. It's just to terrify the civilians here. Right. So basically every house on this block has been hit. This is drug moj iz США. This is one of the windows we repaired, the Donbass humanitarian aid. This was hit by AGS, a grenade launcher machine gun. Ne? BMP. Oh, okay. So even bigger, BMP. Firing from over here. Sasha was in the kitchen, and he had just put his coffee cup in the sink, went back to the living room, bam, through the window, blew up the whole kitchen, refrigerator, the whole 9 yards. And he's a retired miner, so he needed a little help. So Donbass Humanitarian Aid pitched in for the new window and some other repairs. So now he's back to normal. Every time, like after Sasha's kitchen got bombed, the OSCE came. You know, they look around, they make some notes. They say, oh, well, it probably came from that way and this and that. They say, oh, but we don't know who shot it, even though they know exactly that U-crops are over that way. And then they leave, and then 20 minutes later, more bombs fall. When the OSCE is here, no bombs. But as soon as they leave, they always can expect bombs. And this is from the guys who live here, you know, close to the front line. You know, they're not saying, oh, well, my cousin said or something like that. Sasha right there, that's his window. The reason that this white plastic window is here is because it got blown out. A bombshell went right through that window. You see all the other windows here? They're still the old school wood and glass. That one got blown out. The whole kitchen got blown up. And there's only, you know, Sasha, his wife, 2 kids live in that apartment. And the bomb went right into it. This old shed here. The roof was hit, coming from the same direction. That was blowing down these all these windows that are busted here. I mean, and people live here. All these busted windows are from shrapnel. When this bomb hit here, there was a little girl, like a 5-year-old girl, who was playing outside right here. She was drawing these chalk pictures. Like you can see the mom and dad.
Get killed?
No, it was miraculous, but she didn't even get hurt. I mean, it was like, you know, she was right here, and the bomb hit there, you know, and this shed was between them.
Wow.
I mean,
so what does it mean?
Means lucky street, Ulica Udachi. Ukraine screws them out of their pensions. What the Republicans give them is barely enough to live on. So, I mean, they do stuff. They heat their house with firewood. They go to the forest to get wood. They dig coal. You know, they grow their own gardens. So you see how it is, bro. I mean, there's no place for artillery or tanks or anything around here.
Yeah.
And And just in this neighborhood, that house right there, that's where Ludmila's brother lives. You know, and every house on this street's been hit, every single one. A lot of them more than one. You know, and not just in 2014 and 2015, in 2018 and 2019, civilians are still getting bombed. These Pravi sector and Azov and stuff, they come from western or central Ukraine, and they come here, and even the people that are on the other side of the military line, they're still considered by the Ukrainian army and these punishment battalions to be Russians. So they don't mind shooting at the people even on behind their own lines, because they're still considered Russians too. They know that if they had a choice, they would vote to separate from Ukraine too.
These are some of the homes, stores, and apartment buildings that have been damaged and destroyed. What kind of evil can indiscriminately bomb and shell civilians? This is a war of terror on the civilian populations of Donetsk and Lugansk, the same evil, shock, and awe tactic employed by General Curtis LeMay during World War II in Germany and Japan, and later in Vietnam, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and now the Donbass. As we walked down what appeared to be the main street, we met 5 elderly residents who had survived many shellings. I will let them tell you their stories.
Разрушили магазин, а к нам все выбили в стекла, все. Это в 14 году.
That shop was destroyed.
Да, магазин полностью разрушили. Я в том доме сидела, а он тут сидел. Ну и все к нам полетело, выбило все, это раз мы застеклили. В 15 году второй раз застеклили.
So people keep on repairing and putting on new windows.
Крыша течет,
So the roof
Да.
is leaking.
течет. Ну что делать? Бежать нам некуда. И живем все.
There's no place to run away, so they're improving, where they live.
Молодежь уехала, в Россию многие уехали. Мы 8 месяцев в России тоже жили. 8 месяцев нас приютила дочь, потом она уехала в Москве, живет. Вот в ноябре приедет нас проведать. Живы мы тут, и каждый день общаемся. Главное, ни за что, ни про что. Ни за что мы страдаем. Мы заложники, понимаете? Мы заложники в руках
People are
политиков.
people are
Всё.
here hostage.
А то, что Крым вернулся, так это счастье. Иначе там база была ваша американская. Да. Если бы
правда.
Путин не опередил, правильно, потому что люди правильно там что
Здравствуйте.
Путин молодец,
Ну
молодец, да. Мы на границе. И если сюда Азов придет, Вот эти все батальоны, они никого не пощадят. Это сволочи, сволочи, нацисты. Поэтому можете записать, мне уже, я прожила столько на финишной прямой.
Ask her if she
На,
thinks
нацисты.
Nazis. Ask her if she
Да.
thinks America is involved behind that.
Как вы думаете?
Мне не страшно уже, если придут, 82 прожила. А страшно молодежь, которая сейчас не имеет работы.
Риджи спрашивал, как вы думаете, американское правительство вовлечено в эту войну?
Конечно.
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 What is that?
Конечно.
Of course.
Your question.
Если бы денег не давали,
Нет, ну мы прекрасно понимаем, что не могут все сделать. Сколько можно доить Россию, грубо выражаясь? Сколько?
Но
Уже
знаешь,
надо решать уже конкретно что-то. Либо мы уйдем, перейдем к России, либо Украина по-другому на нас посмотрит.
нет,
Нельзя
как
так.
они говорят, что опять Украина была, да не наши не захотят. Даже
Нет.
коренные жители пережить
Не
такое.
захотят. Уже здесь
Жизнь,
проживающие
столько
не
детей
хотят.
Да,
понимаешь,
первые 2
сколько-
года это вообще было, нас тикало при вот любой
А,
какой-то шум,
мы не
звук,
слишком
стук.
много
И
наговорили.
уже вот так вот дергаешься.
А
просто
что мне,
на-
ничего наговорю. Ну пусть знают, если где-то хоть что-то от жителей услышат люди. Ну как можно человеку этому не пожать руку и не сказать, что он защищал Донбасс?
спасибо,
Да.
конечно.
Да.
Какой-то, это вообще ужас. Все повыезжали, пустота тут, я же говорю, все бомбят. Это страх был, сейчас хоть более-менее.
Всякие люди. Кто-то за Украину, у кого свое мнение. А мы живем с одним единственным девизом. Живи, Донбасс, цвети, Донбасс. Великий Боже, дай мне силы самой закончить путь земной, не быть обузой до могилы, чтобы не мучились со мной. И не лишай до расставания рассудка, здравого ума, чтоб я за все свои деяния была ответственна сама. Не дай мне, Бог, лишиться зрения, сердцу застыть и зачерстветь, не дай в отчаянии забвенья, в надежде прежде умереть. Это я на ночь читаю. Матерь Божия, Царица Небесная, Заступница, покрой покрывалом благодати небо над Донбассом. Пусть постоит погода хорошая, потому что у многих нет угля, топить нечем. В посадку идти страшно, там может растяжки всякие, все. Поэтому говорю, чтобы тепленькая погода постояла, чтобы подольше люди не топили. Да.
The street visit ended with us being showered with flowers, homemade wine, pickles, and jam.
Ой, какая красивая бутылка, смотрите.
Oh,
И закуски.
Да вы что?
See these people, how generous they are.
Нашего огорода.
Спасибо. Еще
Ну вот.
где там?
Хватает.
Before leaving, we visited the cemetery where many heroes of Donetsk are buried. The priest conducted a service. I produced more than 24 videos with Russell. They were weekly reports from the field on the course of the war. Here are just a few of them. Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations. The topic tonight is the Ukraine and the Donbass. My guest tonight is somebody that many of you know and is a good friend of mine, Russell Texas Bentley. He lives in Donetsk in the Donbass. He's my on the ground, eyes on the scene source for information. Russell, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Regis. It's always great to see you again, my friends. It's in the Kubasheva district, which is the next one over from Petrovsky, where I live. There was several people were wounded, including an 11-year-old girl asleep on her couch, direct hit to the house completely destroyed. It was the dad's birthday the night before. They celebrate at home. He wakes up in the next morning. His house is blown to pieces. There's no repairing it. And his daughter's in the hospital, 11-year-old girl. They also blew up a factory that repairs mining equipment. This factory's been working throughout the entire war. You know, even 2014, 15, it never stopped working because the equipment is like the necessary tools to keep the coal mining, which is one of the major economic factors of Donbass, to keep it going. You know, I mean, so they were real patriotic. They kept it going. The Ukrops hit it with like 7 mines, big, heavy artillery, blew the whole roof off, blew up a lot of the equipment. And that factory is now shut down for the first time in the whole war, too. Nevada got hit. Just here in Petrovsky, I woke up 2 days ago, and between 6 and 7, there was probably 30, 40 incoming artillery rounds at between 6 and 7 in the morning. Then at 5 o'clock, I'm out in the backyard picking some apples. Same deal. You know, I can hear, you know, multiple, you know, maybe 20 heavy artillery rounds coming in.
Welcome to a special report on Global Conversations. Russell Bentley from Donetsk is with us tonight. So, Russell, there's a lot that's happening. It's happening really fast. The first thing I need to ask you about is what happened today in Mariupol.
I've seen photographs. I mean, the building is referred to by its address in Mariupol. I've seen photographs of before it was destroyed. They know exactly where it is. It's about a 3 or 4 story building, large, like multi-family dwelling, like apartment building or something. It's not 9 stories tall, but 3 or 4, something like that. And there were supposedly 200 civilians, mostly women and children, in the basement of this building when the Azov Nazis blew it up. The point is that to be a true Ukrainian patriot, you cannot support the regime that's in Kiev right now because it is completely controlled by foreigners, by the US, by the IMF, by NATO. It is, you know, everyone from Zelensky through the entire Rada, they are traitors. They're in it to make money. Been working ever since, doing videos. I write occasional articles for Fort Russ News, which is a great news site for information about not just Donbass, but you know, the whole anti-imperialist world situation. You know, I've made a lot of videos, and I'm real proud of that work. It's the information war is every bit as important as the economic and military war. I mean, it's really all combined, and somebody's got to do it, and apparently I'm pretty good at it, so I like doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. If there's ever a big attack here, I mean, I have a backpack in my closet that's got, I call it my airport bag. You know, I have also my machine gun at home, my Kalashnikov. You know, I can be ready to go back to the front in half an hour, and if they need me, I will, you know.
Met somebody very special and ended up getting married.
The girl of my dreams, my guardian angel, the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me in my life, man. Ludmila, she wrote to me on VKontakte, which is like the Russian version of Facebook. I had made a video, and one of her, she's an English teacher, Ludmila is, and she wrote to me and said, "Oh, I see one of my students is in your video." I'm like, "Oh, a girl from Donetsk that speaks perfect English? I should write to her back, and I'm like, hello, hello. So I asked her if she wanted to maybe help us with the videos making subtitles, which she did, and which she's very, very good at. And she also started trying to give me Russian lessons. She's an excellent teacher. I'm kind of a lazy student, but I think I knew from the first time that I met her that I was going to marry her, and so I did. And I'm glad. It's the best move I ever made in my life. She's a good bit younger than me, but in so many ways more wise and more mature than I'll probably ever be. Russian women, they have the, of course they're beautiful, but also they have the wisdom and the patience and the toughness too, to handle any situation, to make any situation better. She's also a great cook. I eat a lot of borscht now, and I like it. I feel as if I've been coming here my whole life. Like this is the destiny of where I was meant to be, and that everything, all the hard things that I did in my life, working in Mexico, being in prison, being in the U.S. Army, all these things were like, training and preparation for what was going to be my biggest test and my biggest challenge, which was coming here. And, so all the hard stuff that happened to me before in life, I'm glad of, because it prepared me for this. It made me able to do this. I'm very, very proud of what I've done here, and I didn't come here to be an internet star or famous or a big shot or have people say, hey, Tejas, or anything. I never expected it to be like this, to turn out the way it did. I thought, literally, honestly, before I came here, when I was, on my way here, when I said, I thought, where am I going to be in 3 months? And the vision that I had was like hugging my rifle in a trench in the mud, screaming as artillery came down around me until the one came right on top of me. That's really pretty much what I expected to happen, which did happen to a lot of guys right down close beside me, but I was just lucky, man. I wrote a song, a biographical song, some years back called "The Idiot Savant." The last line of that song says, all the people I've known and loved, all the places that I did see. If I had to do it all again, no different would I be. All the people I've known and loved, all the places that I did see. If I had to do it all again, no different would I be. 'Cause I may not have everything, but I got what I want. I got no reason to pretend I'm just an imbécile savant. Last verse, French rap. Ça va, oulala, mademoiselle, pardonnez-moi, sacre du mandou. Voulez-vous le coucher cool avec un imbécile? Je suis l'imbécile, je suis l'imbécile savant. There's no place I'd rather live than Donetsk, man. This is my home. This is truly where I've been coming all my life to be.